Imagine waking up before sunrise. You don't own the land you work on. You don't choose your job. You can't simply leave. Every day of your life is controlled by someone else. For millions of people throughout history, this wasn't imagination, it was a reality. When people hear the word slavery, they often think of Atlantic slave trades of 16th to 19th centuries. But slavery is much older than that. Long before modern nations existed, ancient civilizations across the world relied on systems that forced people to work under the control of others. From the river valleys of Mesopotamia to the pyramids of Egypt, from ancient Greece to Rome, slavery became woven into economic and social foundations of many societies. But how exactly did it work? And why did so many civilizations depend on slavery for thousands of years? In this video, we'll explore the origin of slavery, how it functioned in some of the world's earliest civilizations, and what life was like for those trapped within these systems. Before cities existed, most humans lived in small groups of hunter and gatherers. In these communities, there were little private property. People generally shared resources because survival depended on cooperation. As agriculture emerged around 10,000 years ago, things began to change. Farming allowed people to produce food surpluses. For the first time, some individuals could accumulate wealth. Land became valuable and animals became property. Societies there developed social classes. As the population grew, competition over resources intensified. Wars became more common, and victorious groups often faced a question: what should they do with defeated enemies? In many cases, instead of killing them, they forced them to work. Prisoners of war became one of the earliest sources of enslaved labor. This practice offered several advantages. The victors gained workers, the defeated remained under control, and the ruler could increase their wealth and power. Over time, slavery became institutionalized. Laws were written and markets emerged. People could be bought, sold, inherited, and exchanged. What began as enslavement of war captives evolved into a complex system embedded within the entire civilization. Our first stop is Mesopotamia. Located between the Tigris and Euphrates River in the modern day Iraq, Mesopotamia is often called the cradle of civilization. Cities such as Ur, Babylon, and Uruk become major centers of trade, government, and culture. These societies depended heavily on labor, and slavery existed as early as 3rd millennium BCE. People entered slavery through several routes. Some were prisoners captured during warfare, others became slaves because of debt. If a family could not repay what they owed, they might temporarily surrender themselves for family members into servitude. Some children were even born into slavery. Ancient legal codes reveal how deeply slavery was embedded into society. One famous example is Code of Hammurabi. The laws treated enslaved people as a property but also established regulations concerning ownership, punishment, and runaway slaves. Mesopotamian slaves performed many jobs. Enslaved people lacked true freedom. Their labor enriched others while limiting their own opportunities and rights. Few topics generate more misconceptions than slavery in ancient Egypt. Popular movies often portray thousands of slaves being whipped while building a giant pyramid. The reality is more complicated. Modern archaeological evidences suggest that workers who built major pyramids were largely paid laborers and seasonal workers rather than masses of enslaved people. These workers received food, housing, and medical care. That doesn't mean slavery didn't exist in Egypt. It certainly did. Egypt acquired enslaved people through the military campaigns, trade, and tribute from the conquered regions. Many enslaved individuals came from a neighboring land. They served in royal households, temples, agricultural estates, and workshops. Some worked as domestic servants and others labored on large construction projects. As we move forward in time, we arrive in ancient Greece. Greek civilization is often celebrated for philosophy, democracy, literature, and science. Yet beneath these achievements stood a large enslaved population. In cities such as Athens, slavery was common, and some historians estimate that slaves may have made up a significant portion of population. People became slaves through war, piracy, trade, or birth. Slave markets operated throughout the Greek world. Enslaved people performed countless tasks. They cooked meals, they cleaned homes and raised children. They worked farms, they mined silver, and served as craftsmen. The silver mines near Athens were particularly brutal. Conditions underground were dangerous, and workers spent long hours in confined spaces with little control over their lives. Some enslaved individuals held positions of trust. They managed businesses, handled finances, or educated children. Even so, their legal status remained dependent. They could be sold at any time. One especially notable case was the system practiced by the Greek city state of Sparta. Sparta relied on population called helots, and helots were not slaves in exactly the same sense as cattle slaves, but they were forced laborers tied to the land and controlled by Spartan civilization. No ancient civilization is more closely associated with slavery. It is the Rome at its height. The Roman Empire stretched across the vast territories. Its armies conquered millions of people, and these conquests created an enormous supply of slaves. Entire populations could be enslaved after the military victories, and slave traders transported people across the empire. Markets sold men, women, and children to the buyers seeking laborers. Roman slavery reached almost every part of society. The system generated enormous wealth for elites while denying freedom to the millions. Throughout history, enslaved people resisted their conditions. Resistance took many forms. Some worked slowly, others sabotaged tools, and many attempted to escape. One of the most famous uprisings occurred in Rome under Spartacus. Originally enslaved and trained as a gladiator, Spartacus escaped and helped lead a massive rebellion. Thousands joined the revolt, and for time, Roman authorities struggled to suppress the movement. Eventually, the rebellion was defeated, but its legacy endured. It demonstrated that enslaved people were not passive participants in a history. Across civilizations, people fought to reclaim autonomy, dignity, and freedom whenever opportunities emerged. Resistance remained rule that domination was never completely secure. One of the biggest questions historians ask is why did slavery persist for thousands of years? There are several factors that contributed. First is slavery provided labor. The large construction projects, farms, households, and workshops required workers. Second, slavery generated wealth. Elites benefited economically from controlling labor. And third, many societies accepted slavery as normal. People often viewed social hierarchy as a natural part of life. Religious beliefs, traditions, and legal systems sometimes reinforce these ideas. Finally, states and empires possessed the military power needed to maintain the control. As long as slavery remained profitable and socially accepted, it proved remarkably difficult to eliminate. Yet it was never uncontested. Enslaved people resisted, philosophers debated morality, and religious movements challenged assumptions. Over time, attitudes slowly changed. The story of slavery in early civilization is not just a story about economics or labor. It is a story about power. Ancient societies achieved extraordinary accomplishment. They built cities, developed writing, created laws, produced art and literature. But many of the achievements were supported by systems that denied freedom to large number of people. Understanding slavery in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome help us see ancient civilization more completely, not only their accomplishment but also their inequalities. History becomes most meaningful when we examine both. By studying this system, we gain a deeper understanding of how societies organize power and how human beings just inequality and how people struggle against oppression.